Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talkback. I'm Peter Christian. That's John King, the silent one, the strong silent one, because he's losing his voice over there. Right, John? Just nod.
Yes.
So, for those of you who are giggling in glee right now,
All the Trump supporters are happy today.
anyway, well, we hope he feels better and his voice recovers. I know exactly how he feels. All right, but we have candidates in studio. We have Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier. They are county commissioner candidates. Todd is the Republican/Independent. Is that right, Todd?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then Dave Strohmeier, of course, is the Democrat. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us back.
This is not your first rodeo. You've been here a lot, right?
I've rode this horse a few times.
Okay. All right. So let's. Where do you want to start, John?
Speaking of horses, let's talk about the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Well, why don't you give us your thoughts on the fairgrounds? It's been a contentious issue that the Missoula County Commissioners deal with. I'll let you start there.
Now, what I want to do here is lay a little ground rules first, as we do with every candidate forum. The phone lines are open. County Commission. There's only 3 county commissioners, as opposed to 12 city councilors and a mayor. So you guys have a much bigger area to cover. I think a lot of responsibilities for only 3 people. And so there's a great deal of responsibility in this office. So the phone lines are open for these 2 gentlemen, who one of whom is going to be the 3rd county commissioner. So phone lines are open. All we ask is that you ask questions that both of our candidates can answer. Okay? So that's pretty much it. So the phone lines are open, and John will try to croak hello when he answers the phone. So let's talk about the fairgrounds. So let's go with the Todd, you first. What is your view on where the fairgrounds are right now and the future plans for it?
Well, the fairgrounds, of course, as we all know, it's a pretty touchy issue around Missoula. We grew up with the fairgrounds there. I myself grew up with fairgrounds there my whole entire life, and my grandfather too. He actually at one time owned the property where the fairgrounds sits. So to me, it's kind of a little bit touchier than others. You know, I hesitate about the amount of money that they want to dump into the fairgrounds because of the way the grounds were actually established originally, more of a hometown gathering where people can come and, you know, not spend a lot of money and enjoy each other and a place to reunite over the summer. Mm-hmm. You know, so in that fashion, it's kind of a tough sell for me to think about making it hugely commercial like they've been trying to do. Of course, the option that they've not spoke much about is to actually move the fairgrounds, which I'm not sure many people know that the fairgrounds have actually been moved twice in its lifetime already. So the idea of moving it's not completely out of my mind, but like I say, and like you said, the job of the county commissioners is to represent about 111,000 people, and there's only 3 commissioners. So, you know, there needs to be a huge amount of public input to that, and I don't think any decisions should be made without that kind of, public input.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
Well, the greater context is you've got to get, with only 3 county commissioners, you've got to get 2 to agree on anything to get something accomplished. Right. So either Todd or myself will be coming in January and somewhat saddled with decisions that have been made already. So this fall, the commissioners will be adopting a plan, and I fully plan on doing my best to implement it in a way that's sensitive to the concerns I've heard so far. Among those, there's the concern about the cultural heritage at the fairgrounds, historic preservation. I'm a professional historian, so I hear that, I get that. But to some extent, I think the ship has sailed on some issues. I anticipate that the final plan that comes out probably will not have the racetrack in there. And if we had to do this all over again, if I was in the decision-making queue years ago, I think I would have maybe pushed for some more creative thinking on that score. But I think the best we can do is try to implement the plan in a way that's going to be cost-effective, efficient, that's going to make sure that we're taking care of long-term maintenance. One of the things about this fairgrounds that I think I've heard from many folks articulate a concern of is that we're not doing an adequate job of maintaining it. The commissioners, to their credit, put some more money into maintenance this year, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay, let's get to the phone. And again, we ask our callers that you ask a question that can be answered by both our candidates. So, Emmett, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Well, if you don't mind, I've heard of the word county commissioner many times, and I am a voter, but I'm going to ask what would seem like a very ignorant question. Please pardon my ignorance, but it might also help a lot of our other listeners. What is the role of a county commissioner? What does a county commissioner do? How do you serve the city? What is, the jobs of the county commissioner?
Okay, we're going to let you go and let him answer that question,
Thank
okay?
you.
Thanks for the call. So, Dave, you start on this one.
Sure, and I think the best way to answer that question is to compare it to my experience working on the Missoula City Council.
You have to have a lot of different hats, don't you?
You do, one of which is still missing. My hat got stolen a couple years ago at a Christmas Eve service, and it has not shown up yet. So, callers, I'm still offering that $100 reward for that hat. But anyway, Emmett, to your question, within city municipal government, you have three distinct branches of government: legislative, the city council; executive, the mayor and his staff; and judicial. With county government, it's a little different. The county commissioners really wear two hats and play two roles. They are the chief administrators. They're the ones who administer county departments, but they're also the local legislators. So it muddies the water a little. Also, the authority of county commissioners is different than municipalities. Counties in the state of Montana can essentially do whatever the legislature tells them they can do. It's just the opposite with municipal governments like the city of Missoula. The city can enact ordinance and do whatever they are not prohibited from doing by the state legislature.
Okay,
so there's both an administrative and legislative function.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just a little upset Dave left out a huge part. The commissioner is the one that also fires off the bat signal. It's important part of the job of the commissioner.
Wow. Okay. I think the medication is beginning to affect him. Okay. So, Todd, in your view, what's the job of a county commissioner?
In my view, the largest responsibility of the county commissioners is to represent the people of Missoula County. And that's where I see a lack in the Missoula County commissioners is I don't believe that they're representing the people as well as they could be. I don't think that there's enough public input, and I believe the role of the county commissioners is to hear the public, respond to the public, and make decisions, as Dave was speaking about, based on as much input as they can get and then using common sense.
Okay. All right. We'll take a little break and come back. Jeff, if you don't mind holding, we're going to get your call on as soon as we get back from our break. We have 3 other lines open. This is a candidate forum for County Commission. Todd Geery, the Republican, and Dave Strohmeier, the Democrat, here in studio to take your calls and your questions. We can ask questions, but they're not yours. So 721-1290 is our number. And by the way, whoever wins will be a county commissioner for 6 years. So make a wise choice, okay? So the lines are open at 721-1290. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Okay, so the lines are filling up, gentlemen. So let's get right back to the phones and say good morning to Jeff. Jeff, thanks for holding, sir. You're on Talk Back with our candidates. Hi.
Thank you. No problem. I was just wondering if either of you two knew the status and your opinion on the South Avenue Bridge.
Okay. Thanks for the call. All right. So we're going to start with you this time on this one. Todd, go ahead. South Avenue Bridge.
Well, we actually had a meeting the other night out at Target Range, and we were talking about the South Avenue Bridge. You know, I think it's probably a last resort option at this point for the people of that community anyway. It sounds to me like there's still a lot of conversation going on about what they really want in the area. I personally think with the way the infrastructure is set up at this point, we're going to have to look a lot deeper and a lot further down the road than just looking at the bridge. We got a 2-lane road going all the way out there, and we've already put in a huge park system. So as far as the road being able to handle any more traffic, we're going to have to look at that issue definitely before we just throw a bridge in that area. And again, go back to the fact that the people in the area are most important, and those are the people whose opinions are going to matter. the most because they're going to be the heaviestly impacted.
Okay, so what do you think, Dave?
Well, admittedly, I'm trying to get a handle myself on this pretty convoluted and complicated process that's been going on for years now. So you've got federal highways, Montana Department of Transportation, Missoula County all involved, and it's difficult to know exactly who's in the driver's seat at any given time. But I'll tell you my opinion, and there is some current analysis, environmental analysis going on of the South Avenue Bridge option. But in my book, my first option would be to see what we can do to rehab the existing McClay Bridge and mitigate any adverse impacts there. Second option would be, if that's not going to work for whatever engineering reasons, let's replace the bridge at the current alignment and mitigate impacts. And as a last resort, South Avenue, which I think is going to bring with it a whole host of additional impacts and some that might be unforeseen.
Okay, let's get back to the phone. And by the way, we have two lines open, 721-1290. We lost one of our callers, but Jeanette is still with us. Good morning, Jeanette. You're on with our candidates Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm very interested in how anyone who represents, well, in this case, the county, can more or less divorce themselves from perhaps personal just interests or you might say ideology or anything of that nature. It's a very difficult thing, and I think Todd has not been in this situation to either prove or disprove himself, but I do know that when Mr. Strohmeier was a councilman, I do believe he was more led by his ideology than the people's desire to oppose the Hate Crimes Act when the city council took that legislative position. And so I guess I really just want to pick both their brains on how they divorce themselves from their own, not pet ideas, but strong ideas.
Okay. All right. Well, again, we're trying to ask questions that both of our candidates can answer. So Dave, you're first on this one. So when you were a city councilor, I know that you were an advocate for many causes. Sure. But you also represented your ward.
Absolutely. I think anyone who comes to a position of public service like this brings with them their own views, their own perspectives, and I think that's fine. And it's always a balance of how do you, as you're running for office, for instance, put forward what your core values are and allow folks the opportunity to say, yeah, that aligns with me, and if a majority of folks agree, then you're elected. Versus the many things that are unforeseen that come your way while you're serving in office, and you want to be responsive to your constituents. I will say that as far as, and Jeanette, you mentioned the city and the county, one point I try to make is that the city of Missoula actually is in Missoula County. So the job of a county commissioner is to really serve the entire county, both urban and rural. I have my own perspectives, but I'm willing to change them based on evidence, based on things that my constituents bring to me.
Okay, so Tom, what do you think about personal philosophies versus taking the thoughts of the people you represent?
Sure, yeah, and thank you for your call, Jeanette. This is an issue, and I think it comes up with almost every person, like Dave said. Everyone's got their own personal opinion. I personally have not served as a public servant at this point, but I have taken a look at what the duties and what the job requirement really is. And, bottom line, as a county commissioner, your job is to represent the people of Missoula County. Regardless of your own personal feelings or your personal input, you need to represent the feelings of the people of Missoula County, and you got to keep that in perspective. I do have a lot of history and a lot of practice in that, working with corporations and being a Northwest trainer. I learned very quickly that my opinion really doesn't have a place in some places, and in this case, it's the same. My opinion is there for support, but my opinion really doesn't come to the table. It's more the people's opinion, and you got to do your best you can with that.
Okay, so we're gonna take another break. When we come back, Joe, I'm going to get your question next. We have 3 lines open for our county commissioner candidates. 721-1290 is our number. We'd like to fill those up because these gentlemen are going to be with us till 10 o'clock this morning. And believe me, they don't want to hear our questions. They want to hear your questions. So again, our number is 721-1290. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback Candidate Forum going on right now with Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier, County Commission candidates. And Joe's been waiting a while. Joe, thanks for your patience. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, one time I went into the mayor's office and I saw, I think it was Barbara Evans working on his staff. Anyway, I just see it getting a little incestuous. And so here's some ideas I've had that are probably a little bit unrealistic, but, get the county out of the city. Move the fairgrounds somewhere where you can be on a river and have a real county fair, where you can go jump in the river. But or rotate the county fair to Sealy Lake, Frenchtown, Lolo, move it, and then have county commissioner meetings rotate as well. Each time they have a meeting, they go to a different place, or once a month they move to a different city. What do you guys think about that?
Okay, so we'll start with Todd on this one. Go ahead. What do you think?
I hear what you're saying, Joe. I believe in the idea of bringing more people to the table, and the thought of moving the commissioner meetings, that might be a little bit cumbersome, but I think we should definitely focus on bringing more people in and using whatever media or whatever means we can to do that. I definitely believe in what you're saying as far as bringing in more outside, outer city people, that surround the county and get more input. As far as the moving the fairgrounds, I think there has been a couple options on the table, like possibly out there by Buckhouse Bridge and stuff. But I really do think if they're going to do something like that, we should insist on ownership and insist on a basically a permanent location if they do something like that.
Okay, so Dave, we got 2 minutes. Go.
Yeah, as far as moving the fairgrounds, or rotating the fairgrounds, I think that would be a tough row to hoe. I mean, we'd be talking acquisition of property in various areas around the county and all the infrastructure that would be required for that. And again, I think to some extent the ship has sailed in terms of the planning on the overall fairgrounds at its current location. As far as rotating meetings, that's actually occurred to me also. Logistically, I mean, it's probably not something that's going to happen every single public meeting that occurs on a weekly basis, but periodically, I think that's not a bad idea. The Supreme Court justices rotate around the state occasionally and have some of their sessions in places other than Helena. So I think for the sake of outreach to folks across the county, that's worth exploring.
Okay, we got to go ahead, John. We have a quick Facebook question.
Yeah, this is a question about Missoula City's gun ordinance. Would you like to see that expand to the county if you were put in the county commissionership position? That's a question from Elena.
Okay, so Dave, real quickly, we have less than a minute.
Sure, thanks, Elena. I'm a gun owner, I'm a hunter, and I'm all for background checks. I think in terms of the city of Missoula's ordinance, there's been a request that's been put in as far as an attorney general's opinion on the legality and or constitutionality of the city of Missoula's ordinance. I certainly want to see how that plays out, and I think enforcement and implementation is a challenge, and I would like to see how that plays out also.
Okay, so what do you think, Todd?
Well, I think, as Dave said, there's some legal issues we need to look into first, and I don't think it should be something that's pushed on the people. I think, of course, we should have a vote on it, and make sure that people are on board with it. It's not something we should just impose.
Okay, well, we're up against our break, so Jim, I'm going to ask you to hang through the break, and we have 3 other lines open. This is our candidate forum for County Commissioner with Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier, and we'd love more questions from you at 721-1290. We'll be back. Welcome back to Talkback, brought to you in part this morning by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road. More guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula, Montana's premier firearms dealer, Diggett Excavating, where they bring 30 years of excellence to every job. Call 214-4292. And Ponderosa Dental, just off Reserve on 3rd. When you think of a great smile, think of Ponderosa Dental, proud corporate partner of Grizzly Athletics. Okay, we are back with our candidate forum. Todd Geery, Dave Strohmeier, both vying for the county commission, open county commission seat. So go ahead, John.
Elena wanted to clarify her question a little bit. So regardless of the AG's opinion, let's go ahead and just pretend that the AG agrees that it's a constitutional opinion, okay, or a ordinance. Would you be okay, or would you support a similar ordinance being used countywide?
Okay, Todd, you first.
Well, like I said before, I would support it if the people themselves supported it. As a commissioner, I would be working for the people, not for my own opinions. I definitely believe in background checks and looking for some kind of way of helping to safeguard the people so that they can still continue to own guns at the same time being safe about it too.
Okay, Dave?
I would support it. Whether or not it would be allowed given the more limited powers of counties versus municipalities, I don't know, but I would support it.
Okay, let's get back to the phone and say good morning to Jim. Jim, by the way, we have 3 lines open at 721-1290 for our candidate forum. Jim, good morning. You're on with our candidates, and thanks for holding.
Good morning. Yes, I was wondering if the candidates had an opinion on probably one of the older user groups at the fair being the Glacier Ice Rink, and whether they would be opposed to a 50 or 99-year lease, so 3 or 4 sheets of ice could be built and have much more private and public money come in to build the best facility we could.
Okay, thanks for the call. So, Dave, we'll start with you on that. Glacier Ice Rink.
Yeah, I'm totally supportive of ice at the fairgrounds, whether and not just the kind that's in your cool beverage during the summer, the kind that you skate on. What the appropriate length of a term for a lease would be, whether it's 50 or 99 years, I don't know. I think it needs to be long enough where folks can feel confident they can invest in a location without losing their lease. But yeah, I'm absolutely supportive of ice rinks.
Okay, Todd?
Yeah, I do think the lease term is important. Like Dave said, the longer the lease is, the more secure people will feel about investing into that third ice rink. Also, to bring in more ice is a good idea because it's actually helping promote our hockey leagues, and as you've seen, our hockey leagues are growing pretty rapidly here in Missoula. So, any support for the ice would be a good support.
Yo, go ahead, John.
A John question, because practically I don't really know where we stand on this one. So, you both have talked about transparency and carrying through what the public's wishes are. But right now, it seems like Missoula County commissioners are kind of one of the hardest to find out information on for the public. And I really don't understand how you're going to find the public's opinion, frankly, just as individuals, to carry out their wishes other than through the election that we're having right now. So when you talk about these things, can you give us some ideas of what you're talking about?
So we'll start with you, Dave, on that one.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So 2 things. One, and this relates back to a question a caller had earlier. We have a representative democracy here, so that not every single issue that comes before the governing body is going to be put out for a vote. So to some extent, when you elect someone, choose carefully, because that person is likely going to be making decisions based on their own view, based on the input that folks give. But the folks who comment, it's often at times a self-selecting audience, and you're not necessarily getting a breadth of comment. And oftentimes you're only hearing from folks who disagree with an issue. You're not hearing from the many people who agree with a particular stance. One concrete idea I have, though, and I don't know if Todd's experienced this, but in running for office, I've had a devil of a time trying to find meeting minutes or information about meetings online. I think that's low-hanging fruit. Let's make the proceedings of our local government, county government, accessible online, and there's probably a whole host of other ways we can do that folks might be willing to share their thoughts on.
Okay, Todd, what do you think?
I completely agree. I too will be looking through media, trying to expand the opportunity for people to see what's going on with the commissioners, as far as online and using the electronic media that we do have available to us. This is something that is one of my biggest reasons for running, and that's to try and bring more communication and how how you deal with the lack of that communication or the lack of ability to communicate. And what I've done is I've started a personal file on contacts within all these outlining cities and within the city too, so that when I see issues that are coming up that are going to directly affect certain areas of Missoula County, I'm able to contact these people, and hopefully they can contact their small groups or large groups and get more public opinion coming in on these issues. That in itself will bring more people to these meetings and get more people involved, and hopefully I'll be able to pinpoint these areas a little bit better.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Dave Strohmeier, Todd Geery, both joining us here in Studio Gloria. If you'll hang on, we'll get I want to give you plenty of time to make your points so our candidates can answer it. And again, we do ask that when you call for our candidate forum that you would please make it in the form of a question that both of our candidates can answer, not directed at either one. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're rocking now. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Todd Geery, Dave Strohmeier, both here in studio, county commission candidates. Todd, the Republican / Independent, and Dave Strohmeier, the Democrat, joining us here in studio. So let's get to the phone and say good morning to Gloria. Hi, Gloria. What's on your mind?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for putting on this forum. About 9 or 10 years ago, there was an effort to remove the Pledge of Allegiance from the opening of the meetings at City Council. So I'm wondering if either one of you participated in that effort to stop the Pledge of Allegiance from being recited. And if that were to come up again, what would your feelings be on that?
Well, this isn't City Council. This is
I
County
know,
Commission.
but any public meeting that they would have, which is open, City Council or the county commissioners.
Well, it might be helpful to find out, first of all, if county commission meetings open with the pledge. Do we know that? They do. Okay, so
I think they do,
okay.
and so that is worrisome to me because that is so important to so many people. I know I went down to the meetings to express my opinion, and as a matter of fact, the building was full. So I hope that would not happen again. So what would be your position, and did you participate in the past in an effort to stop the Pledge of Allegiance?
Okay, we're start with Todd on this one. What do you think?
I would never exclude the Pledge of Allegiance from any activity. I grew up with it. I believe in it, and I believe our youth also needs the same exposure. I believe the pledge says a lot of things to all of us, and it rings deep in our souls. So to remove the pledge would be against any wishes I would have. And no, I have never participated in any such thing.
Okay, so Dave?
Yeah, I have no intention of rolling back the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of county commissioner meetings. I think back in the day what Gloria may be referring to was a discussion for those who, out of conscience or whatnot, did not want to recite the pledge, to have an opportunity at the beginning of meetings on a periodic basis to have some other invocation or moment of silence or something. Clearly that did not gain traction, and the Pledge of Allegiance is still recited today at the City Council meetings.
Okay, cool. So go ahead, John.
All right, another fun issue for Missoula. The city of Missoula has for a long time kind of pushed for a gas tax. They've worked trying to get that through with the county. The county has often opposed them on this. In your role as a county commissioner, would you support or oppose a gas tax for Missoula?
Okay, we'll start with you, Dave, on that one. Go ahead.
I would support the electorate in Missoula and Missoula County being able to vote on a local option gas tax. I think, as many folks know, the gas tax has been flat for a long, long time. We're suffering plenty of challenges related to infrastructure, and it's a question that I would be willing to put to the voters.
Okay, Todd?
Well, as Dave said, it's definitely a question that should be put to the voters. In my opinion, we have a lot of taxes in Missoula already. We have a lot of elderly that are having a hard time paying their taxes because they're on fixed incomes. I would suggest we try to focus more on infrastructure and less on the other projects going on in Missoula that have nothing to do with infrastructure, and try to reduce that burden before we talk about adding more taxes.
Okay. So go ahead, John.
In the instance that it doesn't go to a referendum or doesn't go to the ballot for a direct vote from the populace, would you support a gas tax individually?
I could be mistaken, but I don't believe that is allowed by Montana statute. I think it would have to go to a vote on the gas tax issue. There's plenty of other things that could be administratively enacted or legislated locally. I don't think the gas tax is one of them.
Okay. What do you think, Todd?
I think Dave's right. I think it does have to go to a vote, but at the same time, like I said, I don't think we need any more taxes. So I probably personally wouldn't endorse it.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting with a lack of calls. So I have one for you. As Dave just mentioned, the city is inside the county. So I want to know what kind of relationship, because you were a city councilor, okay? So I want to know what kind of relationship as a county commissioner that you, that either of you gentlemen would pursue with the city to try to either enhance or, bring things together, or if you felt like you needed to be farther apart, to create some space so you can act independently from whatever the city does. So, Todd, I'll start with you.
Well, that's again another one of my issues, and my focus is to try and bring more of the city to the county, more of the county to the city by implementing meetings where both groups need to be at and both need to attend. That, I think, in itself will bring more communication between the city and the county, get them both on the same table and on the same page, so that we're not constantly battling without actually talking. So, yeah, one of the biggest things would be having more meetings between the county and the city.
Okay. Dave?
So besides just in general running for office, because I think as part of being a citizen, it's important to give back to our communities, one of the things that I periodically thought about when I was on city council that is also a reason why I'm standing here running for this office is the need for greater coordination between the city of Missoula and Missoula County government. And the example I'll give is that in the 8 years that I served on the city council, I can probably count on one or 1.5 hands the number of times that the county commissioners and the city council jointly had meetings together. And usually it was to approve use of open space bond monies, but never really to sit down and just talk about strategy. What do we need to do to work together to make Missoula County a better place? Just simply getting together more often, I think, is important. On the planning issue, it probably made a lot of sense. I think it did at the time to separate the Office of Planning and Grants between city and county. But what that has the potential to do is to lead to lack of coordination on the edges of Missoula County. So if you're in Target Range or Orchard Homes or someplace adjoining the city, are we really coordinating as much as we need to?
Sure. We're almost up against a break. I want to ask this now. Missoula has had, if you will, a veritable glut of revenue-enhancing issues that have come before the voters. The Parks and Trails bond, the $158 million school bond issue, and now there's a $30 million library issue. As far as you as individual voters, how do you feel about you've already said, Todd, that you don't want to see too many more taxes, but are there things that really need to be done that we absolutely can't put off till a later date?
I think infrastructure. I think we really need to start backing up a little bit and focus on infrastructure, and trying to reduce the tax burden on the people of Missoula. Like you said, there's been bond after bond that they come to the TV and they say, well, it's not going to be that big of a deal, a $2 increase, for a $200,000 home or whatever the case might be. But these things add up. Every time they add another bond to us, they add more taxes to us. And I really think they do need to back up and focus more on infrastructure and a little bit less on, like you say, the park systems and things like that. Some of the numbers are kind of staggering, for what they're actually doing. So personally, I I would like to reduce the tax burden and focus on infrastructure.
Okay. What do you think, Dave?
Well, so here's the challenge, Peter. So you've got voter-initiated bonds,
Right.
voters who are willing to take on debt here in Missoula County. I do think we're probably reaching the point where a lot of folks are feeling saturated with that even voter instituted debt. But then you have general operating costs associated with county government, which you're capped at half of the rate of inflation to be able to increase your tax revenue for that. So at some point, we're not just cutting into fat, but we're cutting into muscle and bone, and need to make some hard decision, whether it's infrastructure. I agree entirely that we've got to continue to invest in infrastructure for the community and economic development. But also public safety. I toured the jail here recently, and they've got some issues out there with the facility that need to be addressed for both the safety of the staff and to make that operation work better.
And that jail is not that old. I mean, it's only about 20 years old. It's not,
It's not, but think about how the internet has changed over the course of that period of time.
Right.
So.
We're going to take a little break, and so Earl and Gregan will get your calls on. We have 2 lines open. Our candidates will be with us till 10. Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier, both running for county commissioner. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback, and the candidate forum continues with our county commission candidates, Dave Strohmeier and Todd Geery. The lines are starting to fill up, so let's get right to it and say good morning to Earl. Thanks for holding, sir. You're on with our candidates. Hi.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. My question relates to how the county commissioner will protect the county residents in light of the city's confiscation of mountain water. There has been rumblings and innuendo by the city that they are going to differentiate between county residents and city residents as to how much they have to pay for their water bill, because supposedly some of the city expenses will be borne by city tax residents, which county tax residents might not be the city may not be availed of because of the people that live in the county. So the county commissioners will need to represent the county residents against the city imposing different rates on those residents. And the city is salivating at wanting to annex those county residents that are connected to mountain water. And how are you going to protect the county residents against that annexation?
Okay, thanks for the call. So, Dave, we'll start with you.
Sure, and that's a fair question, Earl, and one that's concerned me a bit in terms of it could be perceived as a classic case of taxation without representation if folks, for instance, in East Missoula who are on mountain water and are outside of the city of Missoula are having to pay for water but really have no direct way of being represented within mountain water, which is going to be part of the city
because
now.
it used to be controlled by the Public Service Commission, but now it won't be.
So that's an excellent question, and it's a conversation I plan on having with the mayor at some point. Now, East Missoula is a little different scenario in that they, for the opportunity to have municipal sewer services, delayed annexation. So it may, at some point in time in the next decade or more, end up being annexed within the city of Missoula. But nonetheless, they currently are outside of the city, within the county. To my knowledge, do not have representation as part of the mountain water configuration, and I think it should be addressed.
Okay, so how would you address it?
Well, I think if it boils down to having some sort of independent board, I mean, honestly, I don't have a good answer right now. I have not seen the organizational chart for how mountain water is going to look under city ownership, and I think at some point, whether there's a board configuration, having some representative from areas that have mountain water service outside of the city of Missoula would make a lot of sense.
Okay, so what do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I agree. We do need to look at what their implemented plan is going to be, but at the same time, we need to have some kind of restrictions on them that maybe mimic Public Service Commission's restrictions, something that at least we have some kind of, like I say, restrictions so the city can't just increase rates at will. And as Dave said, we need to get more county-involved representation for the people who are or may be hit by that tax increase.
Okay, let's get back to the phones. We have two lines open, by the way. It's 721-1290. Gregan, you're on with our candidates. Hi.
Good morning, gentlemen. The city has tried roundabouts, and with the roads being narrow in the first place, given their installation, and the city has put in roundabouts, and I haven't heard whether they have had any statistical information in regards to improvement or whatever as far as traffic flow is concerned. With the city and the county being side by side, would you guys use roundabouts?
Okay.
And so thank you much.
Thank you. So we'll start with you. Todd, what do you think? The roundabout, they're traffic calming devices, right? So,
right. You know, I haven't seen the statistics on it either. The city does seem to think that roundabouts are the answer to everything. They, in my opinion, they seem to be doing a fairly good job, but I don't think it's the answer to every intersection. I think we're going to probably see a huge impact on the Orange Street corridor, and we should be able to get a good idea what it's actually going to do for us right there. The traffic flow in Missoula definitely needs to be increased, and it definitely needs to be looked at, because as our population increases, of course, our roads are getting hit harder and harder. So, you know, whatever options they have, we do need to look at, and I don't think roundabout's the only option we have, but it seems to be a fairly good start. And as I said, I haven't seen the numbers on it. I would like to see exactly how much increase in flow it actually has improved in the areas they've got them.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
Well, from what I've experienced and from what I've seen, roundabouts seem to work pretty well. They do it. They're intended to try to avoid the situation where folks end up getting T-boned at intersections, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are instances where, because of the traffic volume and whatnot, a roundabout may not work. There are other instances, say in the University District in Missoula, where you have these smaller traffic circles. Those were actually something that was requested by the neighborhood councils in those areas as a traffic calming device. So I think in the certain circumstances where they work, we should continue to try to go down that path.
Okay, and we're going to come right back with more of Talkback Jeanette. We're going to get your call on. We have three lines open. Our guests are County Commission candidates, Dave Strohmeier and Todd Geery. We're coming right back.
Thanks for calling KGVO. This is John.
This is Talkback. It's our candidate forum for County Commission, and Todd Geery, the Republican, and Dave Strohmeier, the Democrat, both here in studio with us to take your questions. So let's get right back to the phones. Jeanette, good morning. Hi.
Good morning. This is my second question.
Uh-oh, better make it good, kiddo.
No one seemed to mind.
Okay.
Well, first, before I ask the question, I just wanted to make something very clear. I know both Todd and Dave thought that a public hearing was needed, or a vote, or I guess a public referendum on increasing gas tax. But I attended the county meeting when the city council came in full and requested of the county to join them in increasing the tax on gas, and the county denied it to our great happiness.
Okay.
Now, the question is this. Our county commissioners and our city council both sent information to the people that needed to receive it, that we wanted a refugee settlement here in this area. And I just don't know how that jives with wanting to serve the public, because there was no public hearing. And so my question would be to both of the candidates, what do you think should happen in the future regarding, I would just say, an open invitation from both the county commissioners and the city council?
Okay, thanks for the call. So we'll start with you. Todd, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, extending an open invitation just as county commissioners, I don't believe is serving the public properly. I think when they made the decision to write the letter to the State Department, it may have been a little bit premature. I think there should have been a lot more public input and a lot more public comment, and most of all, public directive to the commissioners to do so. I don't think it should have been one person's mission, and I don't think the commissioners should have acted on one person's mission. I think they dropped the ball and they overstepped their restrictions. I don't think that it should have been done that way.
Okay, so Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, two things. One, just going back to your, I guess, comment, Jeanette, as far as what came before the city council previously and the county commissioners, it was a request for the county commissioners to place on the ballot the gas tax issue. It would not have been the commissioners unilaterally making a decision. It was asking them to put it on the ballot. As far as refugee resettlement, so here's where I'm coming from, and I'll put it right on the table here. My grandparents arrived in northeast Montana near Wolf Point in about 1913 from the Ukraine, Russian Germans. I guarantee you, speaking German during World War I was not a popular thing in northeast Montana, and so I have a very soft spot for being a welcoming nation, welcoming folks into our midst. And every fiber of my being, from my faith commitments to just wanting to be a good neighbor, says to me, we need to be welcoming to all folks and extend a helping hand.
Okay. Go ahead, John. You have a question?
So there's this ongoing process that the county's been enduring with the stone container after it left. Any thoughts on what we should do there? It sounds like it's kind of in stasis now.
So Dave, we'll start with you.
Yes, that's
a lot of land out there.
That is a lot of land. It's a critical spot. If we're looking for opportunities for light industrial, for economic development, that site out there near Frenchtown is a prime location. I think we need to push for if the parties involved, if the responsible parties are not willing to pony up and get with the program and clean that site up, we need to push for Superfund designation and lobby the federal government to make that happen. I wish it could happen on a more voluntary basis, but that might be the way we need to go.
So, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, we definitely need to lobby for Superfund cleanup. I actually live right next to the last Superfund cleanup that we had out here in Milltown, right there at the dam. It's kind of disruptive, but when it's done, it's done. And as Dave said, we need to use that property. We need to utilize it for big business so we can bring in more jobs and better paying jobs into the Missoula area. I think it's being wasted just sitting there. And as we know, it does have some contamination levels to it. But as Dave said, we do need to declare that a Superfund cleanup if we can't get the right people to come forward and do what they're supposed to.
Let me just ask a follow-up question on that topic. When something is, at least in the past, when something is labeled a Superfund site, isn't it then, no matter how much it's cleaned up, isn't it the kiss of death for anybody to come in there and say, oh, it's a Superfund site, I think I'll go somewhere else? So I think one of the reasons why they didn't declare it a Superfund site is so that more people would be interested in getting there. So I'm just wondering, is it a double-edged sword to say it's a Superfund site? So go ahead, Tom.
I guess in a sense it may be to a potential buyer, but the other side of that sword would be if it is designated a Superfund site, we know it's clean when they're done, well, at least by their standards. And so there again, it does make it more enticing to a potential buyer or potential business to walk in there afterwards and not have to worry about what is the underlying issue on the property in their future. Because regardless if it was just ignored and someone was to come in there and buy it and cap it, let's say, and build a business, down the road they're going to be responsible. So at this point, we really need to do something about cleaning it up. And if it is designated Superfund, it's just public information. It's something that's up front, whether it's double-edged sword or not. It should be up front, and people should be able to see that we're doing something about it.
Go ahead, Dave.
So here's the deal. You've got a company out there who owns it that is not paying their taxes. The place has sat vacant, idle for years.
Right.
So I say let's ratchet it up and get the thing cleaned up. And if it's I'm not too worried about that designation dissuading anyone else, just given how little has happened out there.
Go ahead, John. Yeah.
I was going to say, to your point, Peter, if I'm not mistaken, county commissioners asked for a Superfund status back in 2012. So there's already been one part of the sword. I mean, everyone knows there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're up against a break. So we're going to come right back. Candy and Craig both waiting. We have two other lines open. Todd Geery and Dave Strohmeier, our county commission candidates, are with us to take your questions. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. 721-1290 is our number. And we've got folks waiting, but we do have a quick Facebook question.
Yeah, on Facebook, Katie is concerned about rural versus urban issues and kind of gets the feeling that both of you are overrepresenting the city of Missoula at the county level and was wondering about the rest of Missoula County, Sealy Lake to Lolo, and kind of wanting to get your ideas on that and also where you actually live. Do you live in the city of Missoula or do you live in one of these outlying districts?
So, Dave, you first.
Sure. I live within the city of Missoula, right downtown, actually, but I don't think that precludes someone from being able to represent the county at large. One of our commissioners right now, one out of the three current commissioners, lives outside of the city. But I think you're absolutely right that this is a large county. It goes from the Bob Marshall Wilderness to the Selway Bitterroot. It includes agricultural lands, includes urban areas. You need to take all of those into account. And this is why I've been saying all along that the city of Missoula is in Missoula County, because it's not a thing unto itself. It's not completely independent. We need to look at the ways that we depend upon each other, whether you're urban or rural. I worked as a wildland firefighter. I was 18 years with the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. I led thinning crews and fire crews up the 9 Mile out of the 9 Mile Ranger District. So I've spent a lot of time in rural areas of Missoula County.
Okay, so Tom, what do you think?
Well, I do happen to live in the county. I live in Milltown, Bonner, and as far as representing the county, that's basically my interest. I've been spending most of my time in the outlining cities, Sealy Swan, got some meetings up in Frenchtown area and stuff this coming week. And really, that is my focus, is trying to bring more county people in the county areas to the table and bring them more into the meetings so we have more input from these smaller areas that are so greatly affected by the city voters. And, that is one of my biggest focuses, is trying to equalize that a little bit more by bringing more people in so that the city isn't basically overvoting everyone.
Okay, let's get Candy on the line. Candy, thank you for holding. You're on with our candidates. Go ahead.
Yes. I want to revisit the refugee situation. And my ancestry goes back to the Mayflower, and that's documented. So I understand the wanting to help people, but with the vetting processes that aren't in place because there's no way to vet these people coming in to Missoula County and the city, because they don't have records like we have records of a citizenry in these places. I was wondering how they felt about not informing the people before they wrote their letters and the situation going to a referendum or something like that for the people, because this was all kept under wraps. And I didn't find out about the second letter by the city council that was written until I walked into city council one night, and one of the counselors mentioned it to me.
Okay, do you have a question, really quick?
The question is transparency on these issues and informing the public before they come about. Okay. Because now we have 4 families, and I only heard of one.
Okay.
So,
all right. We'll get that on right now. So, Todd, what do you think?
Well, my background also, my grandmother's from Italy, and she spent a good amount of time in the Missoula internment camp out here. So I understand, the migration, and how it occurred. Also, the other side of my family, I'm related to John Quincy Adams. So I have roots on both sides, I guess you could say. So I do understand why people feel that this is an open space to bring people in from other countries, but I also understand that the vetting process is entirely different than it used to be. And when our family, so to speak, migrated here, they weren't financially supported. They weren't supported by the people of the cities that they went to. They came in without speaking English. They had to find a job. You know, they worked their butts off, to lack of any other word, to get where we are as a country now. So as far as the vetting process, I understand what you're saying. I wish it was improved, and I wish it was a better process. And as far as the communication to the public and making it transparent, I think that was a huge failure on the commissioner's part. I think, you know, it's a good possibility that the people would have said yes anyway, but I think the way they went about it was deceptive, and I personally wish they had opened it up for more public comment and more public input before they went ahead and made a decision.
Dave, go ahead.
So I don't think we're going to solve the factual point today as far as how rigorous or not the vetting process is. My understanding is a little different than yours, Candy, in that from what I've gathered, the vetting process for refugees is actually one of the more rigorous for folks coming into the United States. But be that as it may, I'm not exactly sure what the outreach was for the county commissioners before they sent the letter, but I have no problem with having that on the agenda as an agenda item for public input and comment.
Okay, we're up against a break, so we'll come right back. We have Craig and Mike, and in the last minute or so, we'll give each of you guys a chance to get on the soapbox or get on the stump and say why people should vote for you. So we'll do all that as we wrap up on this edition of Talkback. Yeah, it's my stomach. I'm hungry.
It was actually me talking.
Yeah, so 721-1290 is our number. Let's get right back to the phone because we're rapidly running out of time. Craig, you are up first with our candidates. Go ahead.
I believe I want to speak to Mr. Strohmeier about his.
Well, no, hold on. Now, hold on a minute. You have to ask a question that both of our candidates can answer. That's the rule.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Okay, quickly.
So, candidates, your immigrant family, when they came here, I would suspect that they were very excited to become Americans, very eager to assimilate, and I just damn sure bet that they didn't fly any flag other than the red, white, and blue.
Okay. All right. So thank you for the call. So, I'm sorry. I let you go too soon. I apologize for that. So
there wasn't a question.
Yeah, there wasn't a question. So that was my fault, announcer error. Mike, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, this is a question for both of them, and I ask everybody this question. The state legislature is going to meet in a very short and near future. So what is the one law that you would really like to see that they should pass? You can just give me which one law, just each one of you, one law. What's the one law you'd like to see them passed?
Okay. All right, thanks for the call. So we'll start with you, Dave. As a county commissioner, what law would you like to see them pass?
Sure, I'll tell you. I think a law needs to be passed that would ensure that federal transportation funds that are coming to the state of Montana do not get siphoned off by the Montana Department of Transportation. There's a fairly significant percentage that gets skimmed off before it gets to local communities at the present time. I think more needs to get to the ground as opposed to being stuck over in Helena.
Okay. Tom, what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick, because I'm interested in this. What are they doing with the money? Just bureaucracy or what?
That's a very good question. Administration of the program.
Okay. So, Tom?
I haven't actually got any specific laws that I'm looking at that I'd back, I guess, that have passed. I think what Dave's saying is a pretty good idea, but as far as that, I haven't looked at any personally.
Okay. All right.
Well, I got one. Make it so that radio, talk show hosts, and television candidates can run in elections.
We're not allowed to run for office. Yeah, sorry about that. So, yeah, I guess.
What would you run for, John?
I'd be up for doing a legislative position. Yeah.
I think he should run for mayor, but that's just
Mayor.
me.
Wouldn't have to change first name on the plaque.
So we have exactly 3 minutes. So I'm going to give both of you a minute and a half to state your case. So you started the deal. So Dave, you get to end it. Go ahead.
Well, thanks so much for having us today. This is a great opportunity to hear what's on folks' minds, and I think public service is important. It's what I've devoted my life to, whether it's as a wildland firefighter, an emergency medical technician, representing my community through a neighborhood council or on the Missoula City Council. I am glad to have the endorsement of Montana Conservation Voters, the Missoula Area Central Labor Council, Missoula Rural Firefighters. I think we need to bridge this urban-rural divide that many folks have mentioned on the phone here today. If I was to boil down my message into really one word, it's stewardship. I think we need to be good stewards of the public trust to restore folks' confidence in public institutions. We need to be good stewards of the land, which is what we all depend upon, and we need to be good stewards of our cultural heritage in this place and recognize that history really does matter.
Okay, got 10 seconds.
So thank you again, and this is great. I think today's conversation really ought to be a model for our national candidates.
All right, so you got a minute and a half. Go for it.
I think public representation and service is a privilege, and I believe anyone that's getting into that position needs to understand that it is a privilege, and we're not just entitled to just walk in and I guess invoke our will on people. The thing I'm looking at is I am not an experienced politician. I'm not experienced as a commissioner, and that should be a good thing because I can look at the job and see what it's required to do, and I don't have the bad habits. I'm not bringing bad habits to the table that we're going to have to fight through. I'm bringing one focus, and that's representing the people of Missoula, Montana, and the county. And that's really my primary focus, and all I can say is the best I can do is be a voice for the people who feel so frustrated about not being heard. And that's one of the biggest reasons I decided to become a county commissioner.
All right, so real quickly, you have a website?
I do have a small website. It's not really that done yet, but it probably won't ever get done because I'm not really a webmaster. I do have a Facebook for my campaign and a personal Facebook.
Okay, so how do we contact you, Dave?
You can find me on Facebook or StrohmeierForCommissioner.com.
Okay, great.
Or in the phone book.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
in the phone book, too. That's
that works,
old-fashioned.
too. All right, hey, listen, guys, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Thanks for all your calls. John, what's coming up tomorrow?
Thank you.
Well, we'll have some open phones. We'll also speak with the county attorney.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can speak too.
I hope so. You just stop talking now and rest that voice. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for joining us. And you guys have a great day. And that's what we do here on Talkback. Have a great day.